Our guest speaker, Andrew Hawke, joined the RAN in 1992 via the Defence Force Academy. As a seaman officer, he spent his junior years gaining sea time and experience in Fremantle-class patrol boats, landing craft, destroyer escorts and Anzac frigates, which included operational deployments to East Timor. After his secondment to the RAAF, he qualified as an air intercept controller and later extended that specialisation as a principal warfare officer. As a gunnery officer and operations officer in HMAS Arunta, Newcastle and CTF 150, he had 2 Gulf deployments, including command staff for the Carrier Battle Group. Andrew then had the privilege to command the last Fremantle-class patrol boat and commissioned an Armidale-class patrol boat. After a staff role in Canberra, Andrew left full-time service and transferred to the reserves in 2009. Andrew and his wife, Merrin, have 3 great kids and live on the Gold Coast. Thank you. I now call on Commander Andrew Hawke to deliver his speech.
Guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow veterans. The Sunda Strait separates Java from Sumatra, and in February 1942, the Japanese Navy on a campaign rolling south. Fortress Singapore had fallen on the 15th, Darwin had been bombed on the 19th, and Australia was under attack. In response, Perth was ordered to join the American, British, Dutch and Australian, the ABDA military force in Batavia, present-day Jakarta, on the northern coast of Java. ABDA was formed in an attempt to block an anticipated Japanese invasion on Dutch East Indies, Indonesia. On 27 February 1942, the ABDA fleet, under command of Dutch Admiral Dorman, intercepted the Japanese invasion fleet consisting of 2 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 14 destroyers and 10 transports. The Allied force comprised Perth, 4 ships of the British Royal Navy, 4 Dutch vessels and 5 American warships. Although both fleets were evenly matched in terms of firepower, the ABDA force was hampered in language difficulties, communications and lack of air support. The engagement, now known as the Battle of Java Sea, proved a disaster for the ABDA force. Within 7 hours, 5 ships were sunk. Exeter was badly damaged and attempted to make for Sri Lanka, accompanied by a counter. USS Houston and HMAS Perth were the only 2 large Allied ships to survive the battle, and they retreated to Tanjung Priok. Both vessels took on limited supplies of fuel and ammunition and attempted to evade the Japanese force to the south via Sunda Strait. At around 2300 on the 28th of February, Perth and Houston encountered a second Japanese invasion fleet off St Nicholas Point, the northwest tip of Java. As the spotters on Houston and Perth came closer, they realised something astonishing. The enemy fleet they were fighting was the covering force for the landing operation. Ahead and to the port of St Nicholas, transport and auxiliaries were at anchor and on the beach. Ostensibly looking to escape, 2 Allied ships had stumbled on the invasion force. They had surprised the Japanese force at the moment of their greatest vulnerability. The force consisted of 56 transport ships and auxiliaries carrying the 16th Army. Perth and Houston attempted to evade their antagonists, but began to take substantial hits from the Japanese, who were aided by long-range spotlights and aerial reconnaissance. A torpedo damaged Perth's forward boiler and engine rooms, destroyed the forward control position, disabled forward gyro compass. After 3 more torpedo strikes, the cruiser heeled over to port and sank at around 0025 on the 1st of March, with the loss of 353 crew. Captain Waller was lost with the ship. Houston briefly fought on alone, but it too was struck by a series of torpedoes and sank 2 miles away from Perth. As the crew crest solemnly ascribes, ship's company 682 died in action, 363, died in POW camps 105. The cruiser's maritime service was recognised under the battle honours for Atlantic, Malta, Matapan, Greece and Crete, Mediterranean, Pacific and the Sunda Strait. and the submarine Wallah reflects the captain's name. Of note, HMAS Perth is the only foreign warship commemorated in the grounds of the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Today we commemorate, honour and remember those events. If I could share with you my own experience of how the RAN actively maintains this sacred bond. As a midshipman in Perth, the Charles F. Adams class, in 1995, long before many of these young men and women today joined, we deployed south Indonesia and en route to exercises in Southeast Asia. We diverted from the passage plan and took station at St Nicholas Point, where the wreck of HMAS Perth had been established in 1967. It was my first deployment up top, and I was volunteered to be in the guard. As the captain lay a wreath across the stern and fired blank cartridges, I was taking it all in. The heavy tropical air, the smell of the jungle, the cooking fires, the inky calm seas, and the occasional fishing vessels plying their trade. My experience was calm and reflected upon my grandfather's service. He joined the Navy in 1941 to 45. He was in the yachtsman scheme. A very short period. His wartime included Atlantic convoys, minesweeping operations at Omaha Beach, and he was the first lieutenant of HMAS Perth in Sagamai Bay, witnessing the peace ceremony to conclude hostilities in the Pacific. Interesting work for a pharmacist. He stood watch on those bombardments in that theatre. And my experience had no cordite, no rapid manoeuvring, no making smoke or lookouts raising alarms of inbound torpedoes, no machine guns targeting searchlights or gun crews conducting counter-battery, no fatigue, no scarce rations and no fear. I snapped out of my meditations on that tropical day in Indonesia as the Navy hymn, Eternal Father Strong to Save, concluded the ceremony. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. In Sunda Strait on that day, and in many, many more services, the RAN continues to remember and reflect on Perth and the other ships lost in action. We recognise their service and sacrifice. I think those same hymns' words are appropriate today. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea.